When Christopher Columbus discovered the New World back in the 15th century, he also discovered the hammock. It was in the West Indies that Columbus found natives lounging in what he later described as sleeping nets. And when hammocks were introduced to the Europeans, the net effect was very big. Centuries later, we haven't tired of sleeping nets. Hammocks were once called hammaks because they were woven with fibers from the hammak tree. Today, they're made of braided polyester, a change people accepted, well, lying down. To make a hammock, a worker measures and marks the spots for holes to be drilled in a hardwood spreader bar. He spaces the 22 holes 7 centimeters apart. He rounds the edges of the wooden bar with a shaped cutter called a router, smoothing out any sharp edges that could jab you when you climb into the hammock. Using an electric drill, he makes holes a centimeter in size in the spreader bar. Then, with a countersink, he scoops out the wood around the edges of the holes to make a gentler slope for the polyester rope. He adheres the company's pre-pasted label onto the bar. And next, 16 bobbins turn at a speed that could make you dizzy just watching. They're spinning the polyester cord. The bobbins twist the 16 polyester strands, braiding the strands into a herringbone pattern, while electrical pulleys draw them up. The pulleys drop the cord in a drum. Now, it's all in the wrist action. A weaver deftly intertwines the thick cord into a triangular shape. She's making the hammock's harness. It's called a clew. She tugs each row tightly to a ring at the top to ensure that the weave is steadfast. As she weaves, she drapes the long pieces of cord over a wood frame to keep them from tangling. After the triangle is formed, she checks for errors in the weave. Now she threads the clew cords through the holes in the spreader bar. She snares a cord with a large crochet hook. Using the hook, she threads a cord through the hole at the furthest end of the spreader bar and then knots it. And she does the same on the other end of the bar. While the bar hangs by the 2 cords, she pulls the rest of the clew cords through all 22 holes in the bar. Next, she positions the spreader bar under a guide bar to ensure everything is level. And she knots the rest of the cords tightly onto the underside of the spreader bar. It's a critical step. If there's any slack in the clew, the yarn will stretch and the hammock will be misshapen. This hammock harness is now strong enough to support a 450-pound person. Next, she uses a 3-meter-long cord to make a chain of small links by pulling each link through the previous one. The top of the chain rope hangs from a hook, stabilizing it and allowing the weaver to quickly turn the simple cord into an intricate-looking chain. Now she hooks each end of the chain onto pins on a loom. She weaves another cord into the chain, threading it through with a crochet hook. She makes one loop in about every 6th link in the chain rope, and she hooks that cord onto the same pin as the chain. There's no rest for the hammock weaver. She takes a shuttle, which is a piece of wood with 200 meters of cord wrapped around it, and pulls it from below, up through the available loops, and then back down, expertly weaving the web that is the hammock bed. She hooks a second chain rope on the loom and threads the edge of the woven bed to this chain. Now she places the spreader bar of a finished harness on one end of the loom. She lines up the pins of the loom with the holes of the bar. She knots the cord on each pin to a cord from the spreader bar. She repeats the process at the other end of the loom, binding the second harness to the hammock bed. She makes one last knot in the chain, and then removes the excess cord with a heat gun. The heat gun makes a clean cut with no ragged edges to unravel. After all, you're the one who's supposed to unwind as the hammock cradles you in its hypnotic sway.